A learning outcome is a statement that describes the behavior we want to see students perform if they're successful at the end of our learning experience, at the end of our course, at the end of our lesson, at the end of our program of study, upon graduation. What do we want them to be able to do if they have learned what we wanted them to? And so we make statements that are called learning outcomes. These learning outcomes occur at various scales or organizational levels. For instance, there are missional outcomes. Missional outcomes are those that exist in the catalog that talk about why it is that this university exists. And so, for instance, the missional outcome of Southern Nazarene University is to transform lives through higher education and Christ-centered community. It goes on to say, as a Christian community of scholars, and this is all sort of defining the context in which these learning outcomes exist. As a Christian community of scholars, we model the hospitality of grace, the pursuit of truth, and the practice of discipleship, all within the Wesleyan holiness tradition. As we prepare graduates, and here we get really close to the learning outcomes, as we prepare graduates who think with clarity, act with integrity, and serve with purpose. We certainly want students to participate in our community of scholars, and this community of scholars, which is really talking more about the professorate and the staff members of the university, model things like grace, the pursuit of truth, and the practice of discipleship, and students would sort of follow that model. But what we really want to do with the students, according to this particular mission statement, is encourage them or train them to think with clarity, act with integrity, and serve with purpose. So at the programmatic level, these particular broad institutional level outcomes get made more specific. And so, for instance, one of the programmatic outcomes, part of the general education program at SNU, says that we want graduates to be able to evaluate the assumptions, presuppositions, and arguments embedded in expressions of thought and culture by individuals in society. And we call this our critical thinking, or our discernment outcome. So this is still a pretty high-level outcome. We want them to be able to do this kind of evaluation. Well, that plays out in a little bit smaller scale. The smaller scale is the course-level outcome. And the course-level outcome basically takes the programmatic outcome and puts it into the context of the course. So for instance, the course-scaled outcome that links to the gen ed outcome is this: to be able to evaluate the assumptions, presuppositions, and arguments embedded in expressions of thought and culture by the authors and cultures who created and maintained the Bible through its history. And that comes out of a course syllabus. But then, that says what we want students to be able to do by the end of the course. But how do we support this? Well, we support this by designing assignment outcomes or lesson outcomes. And those are found in the assignment instructions. So those are the different levels or scales of the course outcomes. And this presentation is brought to you by the General Education Council of Southern Nazarene University and the College of Teaching and Learning. And I do just want to make special note that all the images used in this presentation were licensed with Creative Commons licenses, and that this presentation is licensed with Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, Share-alike licensing. Thanks.